Hello everyone, and welcome to another digital planetarium presentation from the Discovery Museum's Henry B. DuPont III Planetarium. I'm Elliot Severn, and today we are going to stay on the planet Earth and have a sky tour, and we're going to have a look at some spring and summer constellations, and some deep sky objects in those constellations that you can see through a telescope. And so we're starting right here in Bridgeport, Connecticut this afternoon. Today is June 12th, and we're looking west right now. We're going to move time forward and watch the sunset. Here we are looking west after sunset. It gets dark very late this time of year. It's only about a week until the summer solstice, and so it doesn't get fully dark until after 10 p.m. So right now we're looking at what you will see in the sky tonight at about 10:45. And the first constellation we're going to look at is Leo the Lion. And the way you find Leo is first by finding the bright star called Regulus. So here's Regulus right here. And Regulus is part of an asterism called the Sickle. It sort of looks like a backwards question mark. And so if you connect the stars with your imagination, you can form a backwards question mark right here, which also looks like a sickle, which is a tool used in farming to chop down crops. The backwards question mark of the sickle is the mane of the lion. His body extends out to the left. He has a leg out in front of him, and his tail is laying behind. He's sort of laying down, almost like the Sphinx. And this is a drawing of what Leo the Lion is imagined to look like. In astronomy, Leo the Lion is known for all the galaxies that lie within it. And one of the most interesting is a grouping of galaxies called the Leo Triplet. The Leo Triplet is located near Leo's rear leg, right about here. And it's a tight grouping of three galaxies that can actually be seen in one field of view through a telescope. It contains the galaxies M65, M66, and NGC 3628. A very nice thing to see through a telescope if you have a dark sky. And we're going to move along now and look straight overhead at the zenith toward the constellation Hercules. And here we are staring straight up overhead now toward the constellation of Hercules. And the way you find Hercules is first by finding a group of 4 stars known as the keystone. And this is the shape of the keystone, which is sort of the center of Hercules' body. This is the shape of Hercules. And here's a drawing of what he's imagined to look like. And Hercules is known as the great warrior who defeated Medusa, and you can see some snakes from Medusa's hair in his left hand there. In astronomy, the constellation of Hercules is known for its globular clusters. A globular cluster is a group of thousands of stars in one tightly packed area, and they're made of some of the oldest stars in the universe. The biggest cluster in the northern hemisphere is called M17 the Great Hercules Cluster. It's located right here in between 2 stars in the keystone, and here's an image that I took of it through a telescope recently. It can even be seen through binoculars as a fuzzy object, and through a telescope you can make out the individual stars within it. Another globular cluster located in Hercules is the cluster M92. It's located right about here, and although it's smaller than M13, it's a beautiful object through a telescope. It has a lot of color variation in its stars, it has a lot of blue ones, and it has a lot of orange ones, and that creates a nice contrast when you're looking at it. Another prominent object near Hercules is one of the brightest stars in the summer sky, which is the star Vega. And Vega is the brightest star in the constellation of Lyra. In order to find Lyra, you can find a parallelogram of stars hanging off of Vega. It makes this shape, and Lyra is supposed to be the shape of a harp. And within Lyra is a very famous object known as M57 the Ring Nebula. It's located right between the last two stars in the parallelogram, and it is a planetary nebula. It is a star at the end of its life cycle, and as it ran out of hydrogen fuel, it shed off its outer layers, which are expanding into space. And through a telescope, it almost looks like the ghost of a Cheerio, a faint, round, smoky ring. And Vega is a part of a grouping of stars known as the Summer Triangle. The Summer Triangle consists of Vega, Deneb, and Altair. A triangle of some of the brightest stars in the summer sky. And running through the Summer Triangle, you can see some haziness. It's not clouds, it's the Milky Way. Our sun and all the stars you see in the sky are part of the Milky Way galaxy. It contains hundreds of billions of stars. And all the stars that we see in the sky are simply our closest neighbors within this galaxy. As we look further out into space, all those stars are too far away to see as pinpoints with our naked eye. And so if you magnify a patch of the Milky Way through binoculars or a telescope, you will see thousands upon thousands of stars too far away to see with the naked eye. It also consists of dust clouds and interstellar gases, which contribute to the Milky Way that we see. And we're going to face the southern horizon now and have a look at some deep space objects close to the center of the Milky Way. And I'm going to move time forward a little bit more so we can get the Milky Way in the center of our field of view. During the summer months in the northern hemisphere, we are looking toward the center of the Milky Way galaxy. And as you can see, it forms a central bulge that surrounds the core of the galaxy. And there are lots of deep sky objects to look at in this small area. Over just to the right of the Milky Way, you may notice the bright red star Antares, a red giant star and one of the brightest in the summer sky. The most prominent constellation in this area of the sky is Sagittarius. And the way you find Sagittarius is by looking toward the center of the Milky Way. Just a little bit to the left is an asterism known as the Teapot, sort of an unofficial constellation. Here's the shape of the teapot right here. And you can see how it makes that shape. And just off to the right of the spout is where the core of the Milky Way is located. And there's a supermassive black hole there, which holds all of the stars in orbit around it. The teapot is part of the larger constellation of Sagittarius, which forms the shape of a centaur with a bow and arrow. And there are many amazing astronomical targets within Sagittarius. We're going to go over a few of those. Close to the center of the Milky Way is a nebula called M8, the Lagoon Nebula. Here's an image that I took of the Lagoon Nebula a few weeks ago. A beautiful object to see through a telescope. And in astrophotography, it's full of red and pink hydrogen gases. It's a star formation region. And just above the Lagoon Nebula is another star-forming nebula called the Triplet Nebula. Here's an image of the Triplet. It's a really beautiful object due to its variation in color. All the red and pink areas are hydrogen emissions, and all the blue areas are oxygen emissions. And if you look at them through binoculars, or through a wide field camera lens, you can actually see both of these objects together. Here's a photograph of the Lagoon Nebula and the Triplet Nebula in one frame. And here's an even wider shot showing the Triplet and Lagoon Nebula in front of the dark lanes of dust in the central bulge of the Milky Way. And close to those is M16, also known as the Eagle Nebula. Here's an image of the Eagle Nebula taken through an amateur telescope. And the Eagle Nebula is best known for a feature called the Pillars of Creation, famously photographed in this Hubble photo. These are clouds of gases and dust in which new solar systems are being formed. Another object close by is M17 the Omega Nebula, another star formation region. And off to the left of the Milky Way are two bright points of light, which are not actually stars. It's the planets Jupiter and Saturn, which currently happen to be very close together in the night sky. And as we move time forward and get closer to sunrise, off to the left of Jupiter and Saturn, we're also going to see the planet Mars. And so if you get up very early in the morning before sunrise, you can see Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars in the morning sky. And we're going to have a nice third quarter moon as well. And that concludes our sky tour for today. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have clear skies so you can see these objects tonight. Have a great week, everyone.